On September 26, 2024, Hurricane Helene hit Western North Carolina and changed this community in ways most of us are still seeing and processing. If you own a home in Henderson County, you have probably been wondering what it meant for your property's home value, what buyers are now asking about, and whether the market here recovered or is still struggling. All of that today, honestly, with real data and from the perspective of people who were right here when it happened and have been working in this market every single day since.
We're Ryan and Suzanne McAbee. We're Ryan and Suzanne with the Live Play WNC real estate team. We work with homeowners across Henderson County every day, and we built our peak home selling system around one simple belief. Selling your home should be straightforward, low stress, and designed to protect the equity you've spent years building.
What we've learned from working with sellers here is that most people don't struggle with the decision to sell because the market isn't good enough. They struggle because they have questions nobody's answered yet. So that's what we do on this channel. We answer the real questions, the ones you're asking before you ever call an agent.
There's a link below to schedule a no-pressure consultation with us. Right now, let's dig in.
Let's start with what actually happened here, because the national coverage of Helene was overwhelmingly focused on Asheville and Buncombe County, and for good reason. The Swananoa River broke its crest record by over 6 feet. Entire communities were devastated, and it was pretty catastrophic.
And Henderson County was hit hard too. But the story here was different. Approximately 600 structures were affected across the county, 220 with minor damage, 306 with major damage, and 70 destroyed. 7 lives were lost. The agricultural losses were devastating, particularly for the apple orchards and nurseries that are such a vital part of this county's identity. The Back Cave and Girton areas in eastern Henderson County were among the hardest hit.
The morning of Helene, I was actually up on a neighbor's roof trying to plate the tarp to prevent water from going into the house. And in the days after the storm, it wasn't just us helping. Neighbors helped neighbors because that's what we do here. Strangers help strangers. Volunteers jumped in from across the country, and we were grateful for all of that support.
What we saw in the weeks after Helene was something that defined what this community is made of. And it also shaped what happened in the real estate market next.
Here's the part of the Helene story that matters most for homeowners thinking about selling. The Henderson County real estate market recovered faster than almost anyone anticipated. Within roughly 60 days of the storm had largely normalized.
The data backs this up directly. New listings in Henderson County in November and December 2024, just 60 to 90 days after Helene, actually exceeded the same period in 2023. Sellers came back to market, buyers kept coming, and the transactions kept closing.
What happened in parts of Buncombe County, where the initial recovery was slower due to the municipal water issues in some areas, where entire neighborhoods are rebuilding and where buyer hesitation around flood risk is a real and kind of ongoing conversation. Henderson County's relative resilience during Helene is now a competitive advantage in how buyers perceive this market versus neighboring counties.
And when you look at the March 2026 Canopy MLS data for Henderson County, the median sales price is $4,700, up 3.9% year over year. The market impact of Helene on home values in Henderson County has been, by the data, insignificant. That is not spin, that is what the numbers say 18 months after the storm.
Now let's be equally honest about what is still being worked through, because sellers who understand this will be better prepared for buyer conversation. Infrastructure in some parts of the county is still being repaired. The area along 74 from Back Cave to Lake Lure in the eastern part of the county is still coming back online. Certain road access points, particularly more rural and mountain areas, were damaged by Helene, and recovery timelines are varying. If your property has a driveway or access road that was affected, documenting the current condition and any repairs made is important before you list.
And insurance is a bigger ongoing conversation. Only about 3% of Western North Carolina homeowners had flood insurance before Helene, and the uninsured loss figures for the region were staggering. The North Carolina Rate Bureau requested a 42% homeowners insurance rate increase in the aftermath. The commissioner approved a 7.5% increase in June 2025, with another 7.5% increase coming in June 2026.
What this means practically for sellers is that buyers are now asking about insurance history, flood zone status, and elevation certificates as a standard part of their due diligence in a way that they simply probably were not before September 2024. If your home is in or near a flood zone, getting your elevation certificate in order before listing is the best approach. It's part of being a prepared seller.
FEMA is actively buying out 75 properties in Western North Carolina, including in the most severely affected areas. If you are selling a home in Henderson County in 2026, here are the specific questions buyers are now asking that they were not asking 2 years ago.
First, was this property affected by Helene? This is a question that should have accurate answers with documentation. If your home sustained damage and was repaired, having of those repairs, those permits pulled, the contractors used, and the work completed protects you and gives buyers confidence in making an offer.
Second, what is the flood zone designation and has it changed? FEMA is slowly updating the flood maps in Western North Carolina following Helene. Knowing your current designation before a buyer's lender requires it as a condition of financing is important. If your property is in a designated flood zone, buyers using conventional financing will be required to carry flood insurance, and that affects their carrying cost calculation.
The third thing is, what does the driveway and road access look like for your property? Post-Helene, steep or unpaid driveways, particularly without a road maintenance agreement, are now a buyer due diligence item in a way that they weren't before. If your access was affected and has been repaired, document it. If it hasn't, price accordingly or address it before listing.
And fourth, what is the current homeowner's insurance situation? What they pay for homeowner's insurance and whether covers are, becoming a late-stage surprise that can derail a deal.
The sellers who handle these questions well, who have the documentation ready, who disclose proactively, and who can demonstrate that their property came through Helene in good shape are closing deals smoothly today. The sellers who get caught off guard by these questions in the middle of a transaction are the ones experiencing delays and renegotiations potentially.
Here's the bottom line on Helene and the Henderson County real estate market. The storm was real and the damage was real, but the recovery was faster than almost anyone had expected. And the market data 18 months later shows home values up nearly 4% year over year. For the vast majority of Henderson County homeowners, Helene did not diminish the equity that you've built.
What it does change is what buyers ask about and what sellers need to be prepared for. Flood history, insurance documentation, elevation certificates, and are now standard parts of pre-listing conversations in our peak system, specifically in the prepare enhance phases, where we help you get ahead of exactly these buyers' questions before they become negotiating leverage.
If you have specific questions about how Helene may have affected your property's value or marketability, reach out to us directly. This is one of those conversations that really needs to be specific to your address, your neighborhood, and your property's history. The link below can take you to our consultation calendar.